Okay, folks, let's see how you did. On the top of your paper, there's a picture that reminds you of some of these characteristics. Y-intercepts, X-intercepts, vertex, axis of symmetry. These are going to be points, your intercepts and your vertex. Axis of symmetry is going to be a line with X equals a number. Okay? All right, but let's look down here. Domain and range. Every function we have studied so far has the domain from negative infinity to what? Positive infinity. It can be hard to see sometimes because I can tell that these arrows are going up, but this one's going slightly to the left, and this one's also going slightly to the right, and that's where I get my negative infinity to positive infinity, from the left to the right. You need parentheses on these. So please check and make sure you have parentheses. All right, but the range is different. Sometimes our range is negative infinity to infinity, but never for parabolas. That's never the range for a parabola. So in this case, we have what smallest y value? Yeah, so our range starts at -2. And to include the -2, make sure you put a square bracket on it. And then it keeps going all the way up to what? Infinity. Well done.
Wait, where's -2? Oh.
Did you get it? Okay. All right, the first part of the graph, is it increasing or decreasing? This is decreasing. I'm going to use this dashed line here to help me find my intervals. The dashed line has an x value of +2. That's a terrible 2, but you get me. All right, so increasing and decreasing. We said first it's decreasing from negative infinity until what x value? 2. So remember, increasing and decreasing, we use x values. Negative infinity until 2. From here to here, decreasing. Then it starts increasing. It starts increasing at 2, and it keeps increasing until we get all the way to what? Infinity, yeah. So it's increasing from 2 to infinity. Notice that we always use parentheses on increasing and decreasing. If you forgot, not only do I want you to fix it, I also want you to make yourself a note. Always use parentheses on increasing and decreasing.
Negative. Why is it +2?
So we're looking at the x value here, which is +2, not the y value of -2. So for increasing and decreasing, it's always the x value. Axis of symmetry is the equation of a line. And a vertical line is always x equals a number because all of the x's are the same number on this line. All of the x's are what number? 2. So axis of symmetry is x equals 2. You cannot just write 2. It's the equation of a line. You have to write x equals 2. All right, your vertex is a point, and that point on your vertex right here is 2 comma what?
0. Oh, 2.
2 comma going down?
-2.
-2. So 2, -2. All right, so because it's the lowest point overall, we can say it has an absolute minimum of what y value? -2. Okay, when it asks for the intercepts, you must write them as points, x comma y. So if you just wrote single digits, you've got to write those as points. At the x-intercepts, the y values will be 0. So it will be 1, 0, and 3, 0. Did you get them both? 1, 0, 3, 0? Okay. In the y-intercept, the x is 0. And it was really hard to read, but I'm pretty sure it actually lands at 6 right here. If you put 5, I understand why, but I still want you to fix it to 6. These are points, and points always use parentheses, never square brackets on points. All right, so check your points, make sure you use parentheses. Okay, End behavior uses like a sentence frame: as x approaches, y approaches, as x approaches, y approaches. So if you can remember your sentence frame, it just helps you a lot in trying to figure out what are you doing here. As x approaches, y approaches. And then again, as x approaches, y approaches. The x's are always going to be talking about the left side and the right side, so you're always going to have infinity and negative infinity, and it actually doesn't matter which one you do first. Okay? So this is as x approaches positive infinity, that's the right side. As x is going to positive infinity, what is the y going to? Infinity, good. Because it's going up. And as x approaches negative infinity on the left side, what is the y going to? Positive infinity again, right. Okay, so both of your y's are positive infinity. Questions? All right, open your computer because we're going to be doing some graphing on Desmos. All right, how about the next one? Is the next one standard, factored, or vertex? I heard one person say factored. Does anybody agree? Yes? Okay. It is factored. You can tell because it has the two sets of parentheses, so this is factored form. And then this last one is vertex form. So if I were to ask you what format an equation is written in, you should be able to tell me now, right? If it's standard, factored, or vertex. We need to get our graph onto the paper here, and I'm going to show you 4 important points. Go to your Desmos. There are 4 important points we need to include. We need to include the x-intercepts, the vertex, and the y-intercept. So take a moment to get those 4 points on your paper and then sketch in your parabola. So I want to point out to you that each of these equations has special information in them. All right, so if you look at the vertex form, x minus 1 squared minus 9, notice that the vertex is 1, negative 9. So the opposite of this number and the same of this number makes the vertex. So if you're given vertex form, you know the vertex right away. If you are given factored form, remember that the solutions would be the opposites of these. So x minus 4 gives me a solution of 4, and x plus 2 gives me a solution of negative 2. It's the same as the x-intercepts. The standard form doesn't give you a lot, but it does give you this. The last term here, the negative 8, is your y-intercept. Okay? So each of these gives you some piece of information. On your homework, it will ask you, which format would you like me to show you the equation in? And if, for example, the question's asking about the vertex, you might want to ask for vertex form. Okay? It's up to you. All right, so we're going to name these parts now. We said the vertex was this one, the 1, negative 9. And this one, does it have a maximum or a minimum? A highest point or a lowest point? Has a minimum of negative 9. Good. So we're going to say absolute minimum of negative 9. The axis of symmetry goes through your vertex, and it's going to be x equals, and the x number from your vertex, which is what number? What's the x of your vertex? It is 1, yep. All right, the zeros are in the same place as your x-intercepts, but you don't have to write them as points. You must write them as points if it asks for x-intercepts, but if it asks for zeros, you can just list the numbers. So in this case, it would be x equals negative 2 and 4. I will always take them written as points, so if you want to just always write them as points, that's fine. But when it says zeros, you don't have to write them as points. The y-intercept is a point, and we found that point right here. It's 0, negative 8. All right, so when you finish with that one, you have 2 more rows to do, and I'm going to give you some time to do that. You need to make your graphs over here, and then you need to identify these graph characteristics over here. If you are convinced that all three are the same, you only have to graph one of them. But if you're not sure, you can graph them to see if they're the same. Okay? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on the rest of these. Use Desmos to create your graphs and make sure you graph them accurately over here.
That one right. Just accept it back when you got that one right.